meeting of the Tulsa County Equalization Board to order for Tuesday, May the 25th at 1:30. I'm Ted Catchell. I chair the board. My colleagues are Charles Vanderwilly and Ruth Gaines, and we're here to deal with the agenda as it has been posted. The first order of business is to call the roll. Clerk?
Dr. Ketchell,
Yes.
Mr. Vanderwillen,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines.
Yes.
All present. We'll proceed now to the protest numbers. I have a memorandum in front of me that has been passed in by the assessor's staff. I'm going to ask them to stand and come and address the board directly about this.
Clint Vogt with the Tulsa County Assessor's Office. We've reached an agreement on the first four formals on the agenda today. So you'd like to start with 1407?
1407 would be the order in which we got it anyway.
So our recommended value based on our agreement for that would be $7,058,600.
On hearing from the assessor's staff that there is an agreement with the owner on this, I move we accept the agreement for $7,058,600.
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll vote as the roll is called to agree.
Dr. Ketchell,
Yes.
Mr. Vanderwillen,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines.
Yes.
So ordered by action of the board. This is the fair market value by agreement. And the second item on our agenda is number 1408. And you have an agreement on that one too?
Yes, sir. The agreed upon value for 1408 was $5,844,300.
Okay. I move we accept the agreement for item number 1408 as $5,844,300. Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded. We'll vote on this agreement as the roll is called.
Dr. Ketchell,
Yes.
Mr. Vanderwillen.
Yes.
Ms. Gaines.
Yes.
So ordered by action of the board that the agreement on this fair market value is $5,844,300. Next item on our agenda is item number 1410. I understand there's an agreement on this one also. Is that true?
Yes, sir. The agreed upon value of 1410 is $8,320,500.
Hearing that agreement, I move we accept that agreement by the assessor and the owner of this property of $8,320,500. Is there a second?
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded to accept this by agreement. We'll vote as the roll is called.
Dr. Ketchell,
Yes.
Mr. Vanderwillen,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines.
Yes.
And the next item on our agenda is 1411. I understand there is an agreement on this value too.
Yes, sir. The agreed upon value for 1411 is $5,307,700.
I move therefore by agreement that we accept the value of $5,307,700 as the fair market value. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll vote to accept this agreement as the roll is called.
Dr. Ketchel,
Yes.
Mr. Van Willy,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines,
Yes.
And is there other documents in here I'm gonna need to sign? Is that it?
No.
Oh, okay. Then we'll just hand them back. Which I did. The agenda. Okay. All right. Thank you.
next.
Okay. Oh, that's it. We got a telephone thing. After the.
Hi there again.
You want to come sit up here by the telephone?
Okay. So I guess I need to.
Since we're doing it that way. Who am I talking to?
Wayne Tannenbaum.
Typical taxes, Wayne?
Is this Wayne Tannenbaum?
Yes,
This is Ted Catchell. I chair the Tulsa County Equalization Board, and we have your two items on our agenda today. Can you hear me okay?
yes, I can.
All right. You'll also be hearing from time to time from my two other members of our board, and that is Charles Vanderwille and Ruth Gaines. Let me begin by reading into the record what we have in your formal appeal, and then you can address or add anything you wish to at that time. After that, I'll give the opportunity to the Tulsa Assessor's staff, who's in charge of these, to address the issue from his viewpoint. Does that understand?
Yes,
Thank you. Here we go then. Board, this property we're talking about is at 2410 South Union Avenue West in Tulsa. It was previously on for $204,200. It is currently on for that same amount. He is appealing it and stating he believes the correct value is $125,000 for the following reasons. The current economic and market conditions support a lower valuation for the subject property. All right, that's what we have in writing on this property. Please go ahead and add anything you want to that.
well, it's kind of an interesting story, but the two parcels we have today are actually part of a 8-parcel economic unit. Unfortunately, you deal with well over about 35 states or so, and it just so happens that Oklahoma is one of the few states that when they give a notice of value and it changes a certain amount, it's sent to the ownership, our client, and then there's a different type of appeal due date that you have to appeal. And it makes it extremely confusing, and it ends up being a little unfair because if we don't know about it from our client or something happens and we miss the date, then in a sense we're rejected. But there's not really hardly any other states that have a different type of well, there's a different appeal due deadline because because we raised it and this and that. And it becomes a little confusing. So, you know, we're at the point where somehow we appealed all these 8 parcels, but only 2 of them were not rejected for being late for appeal, because I guess the notice of values went out at different times and different appeal due dates. And it's unfortunate because I think we even got to the point in this year of talking to the appraiser about this property. And I thought that possibly they were going to lower the value on the improvements that are there, but we didn't get that chance because we were rejected as far as not having them all appealed, I guess, exact due date. So we're left with 2 parcels. And to notice, do you have our packet of evidence? Can I ask that?
Yes, we do have those in front of us.
So you'll notice just the initial picture, the cover picture, these are galvanizing properties. In other words, they're built almost like sheds, but obviously a little better than that. They have open air metal type buildings, inferior built, and they're actually dramatically used in a sense by the galvanizing, as far as the company, our client. In other words, the buildings go through a tremendous amount of wear and tear, far more than any other most typical industrial buildings or typical metal things, because the client of ours they're not necessarily in the business to care about what their buildings look like or how they're built. They're in the business with what they do there, which is galvanizing business. So in other words, the buildings should be very low value because they're built very inferior. They are, as far as the wear and tear, depreciation is definitely accelerated. Now, on our page number, well, I guess I can go to page number 4, go to page number 3. Page number 4, you'll notice that we have the 2 parcels that are still valid in question, the one ending in 01860 and the one ending in 02740. Now, of those 2 parcels, you'll notice that there is, the separated land and improvement value. And on these type of properties, it's very hard to value these as like typical market sales, because there aren't really many sales of these type of inferior buildings, et cetera. It's also hard to do on income because they're not really leased out, their owner user, et cetera. So a lot of it has to do with, especially this type of building, a comp analysis. And as far as those 2 parcels, you'll notice that the 01860 parcel has 51,600 in improvements, and the 02740 has 3,300 improvements. And we'll get into that in a second, but the majority of those parcels is land value, which we also have income to see the land value. But if you go back to number 3, it's a little confusing because this would be for the entire property. And I think we don't need to go into that because that would just get confusing as total. What we can do, if we work it up as the next unit, is to go to our aerial picture of the subject property. And on the aerials, you'll notice, I think it's 2 of the back portions of the property as far as parcels. But you can see where this is why we run into problems, and this is why maybe there should be a change in the system of, you know, if you don't appeal by this date, notice the value went out. Because how do we end up with a valid 2 out of 8 parcels of an economic unit? It becomes confusing and a little unfair. Now, if we're just talking about 2 parcels, I can tell you that the 2 parcels are back portions, the subject, I believe, which are, 0180 and 02740. On the aerial pictures, you'll notice that there's more of the back parcels. So how do we value just 2 parcels that don't have any frontage and that would be essentially landlocked, et cetera? It's very difficult. But I'll get to the fact that we can value those, and we're just going to look at those 2. Somehow it's invalid, the other appeals. We can look at those 2 land parcels. Look, keep in mind that these are 2 back portion parcels. So in other words, when we go to our land comps, keep in mind that they're superior land comps because they include frontage, et cetera, along those lines. So we're essentially dealing with land and improvements for 2 of the lower valued parcels of this economic unit. I'm not going to go into our sales or our pictures of the property because most of the pictures have to do with some of the parcels we're talking about, but they have to do with the overall property, and same with the sales comparables. But I can kind of simplify it by getting to our cost approach. And one of the things is that's on page 22, actually. But I think there's something that is important to note, once you get to page 22, I just want to make sure I have the right parcels here. Going down.
I think we've all got the page 22 here.
Okay, I'm trying to remember 01860 and 02740. So I'm not sure if we included both of those. Okay, I know we have 02740. I'm not sure if we have the other parts here, but if you go to 02740, what's interesting about that is the following. That building is 600 square feet. We actually have this building valued at, after depreciation, about $13,000. But what's actually interesting about that is that the county has that building on that particular parcel. Let me go back to the number here. 02740. They actually have the building at $3,000, $3,300. So first, the interesting thing is we're actually over the value of the county on that particular parcel on improvements. Now, I don't think we should be. And in fact, I think the value should be 0 on improvements. And I'll explain why essentially there's another problem of the way most counties do things. Most counties say, look, we're only going to go 80% depreciated. That's the way our system works, and that's the most we can go. But that's not really realistic in the overall market when you're selling something. In other words, it's not only the fact that these buildings were built, and that one, for example, let me go back to it. The improvements on the parcel ending in 02740 were built in 1979. But given the type of property it is, and there is actually a class in Marshall and Swift called S-cheap, which this is. And what happens is, even if you take 80% depreciation, there's still a little bit of value left. But we're actually even over. But the thing is, in realistic terms, because of the type of property, because of the use, et cetera, a 1979 building that's there, the shell type of building, wouldn't have much at all value if it was actually trying to be sold in that sense. It would essentially probably be land value. Now, here's what gets really interesting, is if we go back to, I believe, let's see here, and maybe the appraiser, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we go back to our page number 4, you'll notice that the building ending in 02740 was about 3,600 square feet, and the county has it valued essentially at $3,300. I mean, that's about as low as you can get, and it would be hard for us to get a lower value than that. I understand that. But what's interesting, and I'm going to pull up now, is if you go to the other parcel that we do have for appeal today, 01860, that property, they have valued the improvements at $51,600. Now, that property, and I could pull it up here, I believe is about, let me see how big that one is. I think it's about 15,000 or so square feet. It's a little over that, and I'm sure maybe you can ask the appraiser. Our point is this: if you're valuing the improvements at about $1 a square foot or so on 02740, why are we valued at about $3 or $4 a square foot on 01860? In other words, what we're looking for on 01860 is a lower value than the 51,600 improvements. It's not just based on the fact of the year built, what's done there, accelerated depreciation. It's based on the fact that even that other parcel that's questioned here is even a lower value on improvements by the county. So both equity-wise and just in general, we don't believe somebody would pay $51,600 for this type of shed-type used building from the late 70s. We believe that that could be lowered, the improvement value on our parcel 01860. Now, besides the improvement argument on one parcel, both parcels together, we have also a land argument. And our land argument is on page 31, where you have, well, now, as a total, I think it's $1.14 a square foot, the land. To be honest with you, I don't know per square foot what those two parcels are. I'm hoping the two parcels are even as, close to this value, and maybe we can go over that. But as you can see by our land sales, you'll notice that they sold for between 58 cents and 15 a square foot. With the average or majority, I would say it's closer to $1 a square foot. So in a sense, we're just looking for, on the basis of what type of land this is. I know we have both commercial and industrial land comp, And what we're saying is, I think it supports more of $1 a square foot than $1.14. So I'm going to let the appraiser explain that if those two land parcels we're dealing with are lower than $1.14, but if not, we're looking for $1 or less per square foot of land. And again, especially on the one parcel, the improvements are $51,000 or so. We're looking for a lower improvement value, especially because we believe that it's essentially land value at this point. And it's unfortunate that we can't go below a system that gives maybe 80% depreciation. There's more depreciation than that. And I wish we could go over the whole property. And I do believe that if we had valid appeals on everything, I believe that the appraiser might have come down on the improvements overall on the entire property. So just keep that in mind. I could be wrong about that. And hopefully we'll get at least a lower land or improvement value on the two parcels in question. But that's all we have for now.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. We tried to join you with looking at the pages as you pointed them out to us. But just so that I'm clear, since you had to summarize a lot of information, were you saying essentially that you are only protesting the one property with its improvements, whereas the other property you're leaving out, you're just using it as a comparison or in terms of the way the county's doing their evaluation?
Well, as a comparison, but that one, if there was any lower value, we believe that one would be more of a little bit lower land value, but we're not asking for lower improvement value, right, on the other parts.
Okay. All right. I'll ask the assessor staff to introduce himself and to discuss this with us.
Hello, I'm Tim Jordan with the Tulsa County Assessor's Office, Senior Appraiser. And in this appeal, if you go back to page 10, I'll start with the land since we kind of discussed that.
Are we looking at the same?
No, it's going to be the packet that.
Oh,
was handed
okay,
to
just
you
a minute.
previously.
Do we have it? No.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you didn't have it.
No, we don't. Okay, the one I'm looking for though is, this is the 740. Is that what we're discussing now?
At the top of the sheet, it'll say account number ending in 01860.
Whoops. Well, see if we find that. I thought he was talking about the other account.
There's two accounts he's talking about.
Okay,
This is the account that is on the docket at 1417 ending.
okay, got it.
Okay.
All right, Tim, take us through what you want us to look at in your packet and.
Do we have a packet for?
Yeah, there's one.
Oh,
for
is
each
there
group. Yes.
sheets?
One
Yes.
for each.
One for each. Why not?
Being a little selfish.
Well, you know, I mean, I'm chair and I have to.
I'm sorry, are we privy to the packet? Because I don't know if we ever received it.
Tim, you want to answer him on that?
I'm not sure if you received it or not. I submitted it last Friday. I'm not sure if it was emailed to you.
Okay, well, I'll have to check that, but go ahead.
Are you able to see it online or on the screen?
I don't believe so, but, I mean, maybe we could just go forward and I don't know if I'm gonna have to object or not if we don't have the evidence. I don't know if I'm just not sure what you're gonna present in the two parcels, but I don't mind if you go ahead and then we figure it out. It's fine.
Okay. All right. As Mr. Tannenbaum has discussed, we can't actually, we're not looking at an entire economic area because only two accounts were in protest that we're here to report today,
All under the same ownership.
all under the same ownership. And last year, we have discussed this property at great lengths.
I thought so. It looks
Yes.
familiar.
Yes, we discussed it at great lengths last year because we had every account last year and we adjusted economically to the whole area last year as a board.
I see.
And so,
So,
Beyond this one ownership.
yes. Yes, so this whole area is where you're looking at the map. which I presented to you on page 10. This is the overall area. Now, the property that is white, that is Aon. If you're familiar with Aon, it's a humongous company that actually is approved for exempt manufacturing.
Just hold on. I don't, is it so far we have?
Yes.
It's not-
Well, no, it's the next pack. You're in the wrong packet. But it's the same page, so you can look at it either way.
Okay, the packet I'm looking at is the one you described as the number should be 1860 at the top.
Maybe I put it together backwards. The copy machine did something weird when I was putting these together. And it was like that.
Just trying to keep it straight. Find what you do.
It's gonna look like this.
All right, I got that one. That's
Okay, that's it.
1860. You're trying to find the picture. All right, go ahead.
Okay, the white building and the huge building across the street is a major industrial property called Aon. And they are part of the XM program as well with the tax commission.
Point to it, please.
Oh, it's these two properties. Okay. And the property we're discussing today is the account right here that says 40 cents a square foot in blue.
Yeah,
Okay. The land value is at 40 cents a square foot in that area. And you're all familiar with the term economy to scale, which means that if you buy something in quantity, it's cheaper than it is if you buy something smaller portion. It's going to cost you more money. And that's how the market works. So if you buy candy at Walmart, it's going to cost more than you buy it at Sam's because you're buying it in bulk at Sam's. So in the market, that's how land and improvements are valued by the economy to scale. And so in saying that, I didn't value the land, but I went over the valuation with the appraiser that has valued the land. And the corner lots usually cost more than the, the interior or, the properties that are not corner lots. So if you look at this, the dollar per square foot is by 21st Street. And then the one that's an interior is at 75 cents and 75 cents. And these are the accounts that you're seeing that's owned by the same ownership. And then behind it, it's lower because it's not as accessible to the highway and there's more land included at 50 cents a square foot. And behind that is excessive land that is at 0.005. And the property we're discussing today is directly behind Aon. So it's right now it's at 40 cents a square foot, and below that, it's at 0.39, around that, give or take. So that's the land values, and the property that is in the other account that we're going to discuss is the one directly below it at the 39 cents a square foot. So if that makes any sense, and the land was equalized with the area by that appraiser that I was discussing. Okay.
was this equalization, did that happen just this year or was that previously?
It was previously, but then last year we had the hearing, we discussed it and the values were in line. And then this year we discussed it again at the appeal and the values were in line again.
So when the board heard it last year, were these the values we agreed to?
Yes, on the land.
All right, thank you.
For both accounts there.
Right,
Okay, so the page in the front that states 0.01860, that packet, I'll go through this account first and then we'll go to the other one. And I have the formal appeal number as 417, ending in 417 for formal.
yes,
Okay. We have the property currently on at 204,200, which is overall value with land and improvements of $13.60 a square foot. Okay, this is a 13,200 square foot property. It's average condition, but it's not condition, quality. The condition is poor. And so we're basically depreciated down the value because of its the condition of the property to poor. So it's not average, it's not fair plus, but we called it poor. So we've actually
The land is
given,
poor, but what-
no, we're talking about the improvement value right now.
Okay.
And if you'll follow me on the cost approach, on the left side, it's green. I have them color coded. So the green on the sheet is the cost approach, and we'll discuss that first, and then we'll go to the other two. We have 13,200 square feet average property in poor condition, and it's a storage warehouse that has space heat, metal frame, flat roof, and it has a high ceiling wall height of 28 square feet, and it was built in 1976. So it is an older property, an older structure, and I'm going to show you the picture. If you go to page 2, this is the property. It is rusted. It is being used. It is functional, but it is a rusted building, and it has some functional obsolescence. And it needs some work and repairs, but that's why we call it poor condition. Okay. The next page 3 shows the actual drawing or the square feet of the property. And there's a modular shed out in the front as well, in front of it. It's on that account there. And so the cost approach, for the 13,200 square foot condition that's poor is $14.89 a square foot for the building, but it is being utilized. And so then we got the second column, and we're going to discuss the income approach. Looking at the income approach, again, like Mr. Tannenbaum has kind of pointed out, the property is not what most of the properties are that are being rented. It's in poor condition. But if you go to page 4, this is
I
the
mean,
CoStar
you're up
report.
there. It's in poor condition, but it's very functional
It's functional.
for what that business.
Correct.
is.
Yes. So we have to kind of look at a market and look at the top versus the bottom and see what use that building has. Because as long as the building is in use, it has a value. And as long as its structure is there, we have to value it by law in the state of Oklahoma. And so we can't give a zero value to any property. It has to be valued if it's any kind of structure at all. And so therefore, we have to give it a market value. And if you go to page 4, and we're looking on our main sheet here in the blue section now, where it states pro forma income. Page 4, it talks about the submarket and the market rents, and the submarket rent is $476 a square foot, and the market rents are for $552 a square foot. Now, this actually is the property that in the exact location that we're talking about when we're looking at these reports. And so I did not value it at either of those because they're too high because of its condition. And like I said, most of the market will not have, in the condition that it's in, will have that situation. So we valued it as a pro forma at $3 a square foot. And then we go down to vacancy and collection, 6%, high vacancy, 10% operating, and 5%, 5 cents per square foot on the reserve for replacement. That's based on the PwC Real Estate Investor Survey. And then we get a 10% cap rate. So that indicates a market value of $373,697 at $24.88 a square foot overall. Top left-hand corner is going to show you all the approaches and the price per square foot. Okay. And then the sales comparison approach is the third column. That's kind of the orange color. And again, if you look at pages 5 through 9, these are different comps. And I just gave you random comps here in the same economic area in the same submarket of sales that have taken place. And as you can see, they kind of have a range, but our subject property is at $13 a square foot. And even at some of these properties, even though they're probably in a little better condition, they're all much higher, in the sales. So just wanted to point that out. So, looking at it, giving it a lesser value for sales than what these market value or comps are showing for the normal submarket there. If you gave it a value at when the sales comparison approach, we got around $204,215 at $14 a square foot. Okay, so the assessor's value is basically at $13.60 a square foot, the bottom of the market. And like I said, the building does have value. It does have a high wall height of 28 square feet, which is more for functionality. It's a better property to use for industrial purposes and adds some value to that. And that is everything I can think of. Do you have any questions on this particular account? And then we can go to the next one.
I guess, I'm just trying to understand what the disagreement is between you and him. Mr. Tannenbaum, as I understood your presentation so far, you were trying to get a reduction, not in the land value, but in the improvement value. Is that true on this first protest?
Well, it's true overall now, because the other protest, now I realize, and that's what I apologize for, I think what I understood, those two back parcels are valued lower. And if that is the case, then I don't think we really have a land argument. I think essentially our argument would just be on the improvements on this one, but the other parcel, I don't think we have much of a case.
Okay. All right, so did you, you've heard Tim's presentation and how he's gone through the standard three ways that the county assesses properties. Is there a response you want to make to any one of those threes at this stage, or is there some other issue you wish to raise?
Well, no, I appreciate that, because I think this would speed things along. One of the things, and maybe I misunderstood, the improvements themselves are valued on this particular property at $4 a foot. Is that correct? I thought I heard $3.
I thought it was 14.
Well, we're on the, the property that's 13,200.
Yes.
That's the property we're discussing right now. We didn't get to the other account yet, and that one is 13,200 square feet, and that's $14.89 a square foot.
No, I meant just on the improvement value per square foot.
Yeah, that's the improvement value, and then if you add the land value to it, together per square foot is $13.60 overall.
But
Oh, that's what I'm confused about. But you only have a value of $52,000 on this improvement, correct?
The improvement value is actually $196,541 on the cost approach.
Well, what's on the account that we're looking at in terms of the appeal statement is 204,200.
Yes.
That's what's on the account right now.
No, I get that. What I'm saying, the improvement value on the account is $51,600. Not on your approaches, but just the county value then.
I see. I thought it was more than that. Let's break it down for us.
I'll look at it real quick. Yeah.
He'll tell you in just a minute. You're right. I have the total value, not just the improvements.
The improvement value on here is showing at $196,541. $196,541, and the land is on at $152,600.
Maybe I was talking about the wrong parcel. Are you saying,
Oh, wait,
what is the last?
I know, 1 second here. I know what I did.
Okay, hold on just a minute. Tim's refiguring.
Okay.
I'm looking at current versus the other year that we have to value in the cost approach. That's where I was confused. Bringing it back down there. So we have the land value at 152.6.
Right.
Yeah, so 51,600 actually is what it's on at this time.
So my question then is, okay, so that's only about $4 a square foot on the improvements, but the question is on the other parcel, which we haven't got to, that one, the improvements seem to be on for about $1 a square foot. So we're wondering the difference in how did that parcel 02740, those improvements are even lower per square foot. Can I ask how that happened?
Well, the second account that we were discussing, let me look and see the same things. I forgot to add that part on my report here to see what the values were. I was looking at current here. Okay. These are valued by using the cost approach that I'm really going over right now with. The value that we talked about, the 204,200 on that account, these were values that were set last year by the Board of Equalization. And these are properties that have different uses. The property that we're discussing that has 13,200 square feet, it is a different structure. It's 28 wall height. The other property has a 16-foot wall height. Both of them are in poor condition as far as that goes. The other property you're talking about is a fair plus quality, and this property is an average. And the other property you're talking about is an equipment building versus a storage warehouse. So the value is different based on the building types and based on the wall height and based on the quality of construction, even though that both of them are in poor condition. And the property that we're discussing right now is 13,200. That has a bigger square footage as well than the 3,600. So the 3,600, the price is going to be higher per square foot again due to the fact that it's the economy of scale versus the other issues that we discussed, which would be these different building types, descriptions, which is the storage warehouse versus the equipment building, the wall heights, 28 versus 16 square feet, and the quality of construction.
Now,
All right.
Mr. Tannenbaum, I just trying to be clear now, what you're asking for, both, is it the improvements you're wanting to have lowered? And if so, again, what your number is?
Sure. Now, for example, on the 02740 property, we're not asking for lower. I think they're very low, which is fine. And the reason I just wanted to show that is at least they understand that's a 1979 building in poor quality. They've only given about a $3,300 value to that. We're more concerned about the parcel ending in 01860. That's the one where we understand the land value, but the improvements of 51,100. That property, by the way, was built, as we talked about, that building in 1976 versus the 1979 of the first parcel. Now, I understand they're different uses, and I understand actually it benefits us that this parcel is larger as far as the building. But I think our point is that a 1979 poor quality, et cetera, building and all the wear and tear on it, et cetera, doesn't really have much value. I understand there has to be value, well, there doesn't have to be, but on the improvements, if it's a going concern in a sense, but when we say a going concern, I don't know what that really means as far as they use it, and then if somebody was gonna buy it, they'd probably tear it down. We're just saying on the 51,600 improvements, we believe it should be, I mean, conservatively, $25,000, not $51,600. And that would probably take into account 10% more depreciation. And it would be almost fully depreciated, but at least there's some value based on the fact that there's the building there. But we just don't believe somebody would even pay almost anything for that building, given the poor use, et cetera, year built, et cetera. So that's our contention.
So, and as I understand that condition, you're saying, I'm still trying to, you're just saying it's the land value and that's it. The building really shouldn't count. Now, they have to put some value on it. So you're saying, well, lower the value anyway, because it's not really valuable.
Right, but I'm saying that an overall value, for example, the parcel that's on for 204,200, I think it should be an overall value of about 175,000, which would at least give some value to the improvements, but not as much as it's on for.
And, okay, let's deal with that, but then straightforward. When you came before us last year, I'm slowly, it's percolating back into my memory. Because I knew the picture. When I saw that picture, I thought, oh, I know we've done this one before and it was pretty recent. And so that's why I was asking the questions of you even at the beginning. What I think we argued with you last year, and I know this is difficult, but I think we did look at both of them as an economic unit. And we said, you're making good money out of this stuff. You can't expect the county not to achieve appropriate tax from your ongoing business. And we were arguing over that. And the board went this way because we thought that was fairer in terms of the income that was still being generated by this galvanizing operation. Now,
Yes, but
is
that's the
that,
first, but they are paying on a separate, whether it's income tax or whether it's, personal property, they are paying additional separate taxes on the going concern, and that's why we trying to say this is a separate land and building, because they're already paying taxes separately on personal property, inventory, or income tax, that type of thing.
yes, no, I understand. And I mean, I'm slowly remembering the conversation. We still felt that the property had an economic value. Admittedly, the questions you're raising about, well, fair market value is what you can get for it. Somebody was willing to buy it from us today. And we don't think, that's why you're arguing it should be lowered. Last year, we were not persuaded. We thought that lost a lot of appropriate tax revenue. I'm gonna ask my other board members if they've got any sense of memory that was different, or if they have new questions they want to ask on this. And then we'll give you a chance to respond to both us and Tim about the matter. I'm just trying to get all the conversation about the property before the board. Okay, Charles, do you have any further questions, comments? Help me out here.
I do. As I remember it, isn't this the old Rogers galvanizing plant? For full disclosure, Rogers was an audit client for years. And it's a very profitable undertaking, but that's all it's going to be. It's so nasty, dirty down there. That's the only thing that can be done. Is galvanizing. And I mean, I hated to even tromp around down there. But for that site, it's making somebody some pretty good money. I mean, I was there, I was on that account for around 5 years. And I just chilled to walk out there. In fact, we had a kettle turn over one day. And the forklift driver had to drive into the fire. Whoa. To rescue an employee.
Yeah.
So it's dangerous, but it's dirty, and that's all it's ever going to be. I mean, it ain't going to be a garden spot. But on the other hand, it's a pretty good corporate citizen over there. So I'm very comfortable with the way it's been reflected here.
In other words, you still feel we should sustain what we did
Absolutely.
last year. Okay.
Absolutely.
Ruth, what about you? Do you have any new insights here or questions? Charles made the case, which he remembers better than me, obviously.
I'm just looking at the initial appeal, indicating that the value of it should be $125,000. But we've established that the land is at $152,600. So I don't think that's right. But as I listen to the appeal, you've indicated now that perhaps the building would be worth $25,000 rather than $50,000. Just listening and trying to put out.
Can I add something here?
Mhm.
One of the issues that we're discussing with Mr. Tannenbaum right now is the difference between quality, build as. So let me explain it to you this way. If you were to build a new house, would you want to be taxed? If you build a utility shed in the back to put your mower in, would you want to be taxed the same amount for that utility shed as your house? No, because there's a difference in value based on the type of quality of construction and the type of building it is. Does that make sense? So the properties that we're looking at here, they're different qualities of construction. One's a cheaper quality. One of them is a storage warehouse, which has a higher value to it, bigger materials, cost more to build. So there's different prices, what it costs to build a house versus like a shed to put your mower in. And so when we look at a property, we have to grade it and we have to call it the build as what Marshall and Swift's definition or Craftsman's definition of whatever property we're looking at. We have to call it what it is. And then we have to value it according to the value and the cost that comes up to making it that value. Does that make sense?
All right. It does, but you don't call it a house junky, but I would call every single one of these buildings at this point essentially junky. I mean, you can go over and talk about this property versus that, but I think we know that these buildings would probably be torn down if somebody took over this property. But I'd like to ask you something on record as far as the appraiser. Because what the board's talking about, we're on record here. Do you agree that we should not be talking about how much money this property makes that has nothing to do with the market value of land and improvements? Can I ask you that question?
We're asking the staff that question, is that right, the assessor?
Yes, because I know they don't take into account how much property this makes, but I'd like to ask them on record. Do you take into account how much property this makes on what we're talking about now, the real property value?
Well, let me go back to that. We do what's called an income pro forma, and that is based on the lease amounts. So the potential gross income is, we have to look at what is the property's potential gross income. Well, what would it lease for if you were to put it on the market? What number would you come out for at that point?
That's not the question. The question was, the board is talking about how much money this property makes for the owner. So is that something you look at, or is it just the lease rate? That's something separate, correct?
Yeah, but again, if the money that you make is based on the money that you're gonna make for the profitable amount, you're only gonna be able to charge what the property is gonna be able to bring in, which basically
So on
goes
record,
back to
you're
the.
saying it matters how much, on record, you're saying how much it matters that the owner makes on this galvanizing, that matters as far as the real property value. Are you saying that on record?
No, we're looking at lease value. What is the property going to lease for? Because there's different lease amounts based on the different quality, not quality of construction, but property types. And quality of construction and condition. You're gonna get different prices. And so it's all based upon economics. So, you can charge somebody for if you're gonna rent your house out and you had a cheap house, but yet you had a 25,000 square foot house beside yours, you wouldn't want to charge the same price. You want to look at the quality, the condition, and the type of materials, the ornamentation. But you also want to look at what is this property going to lease for, that at the ultimate end of the day, what is it going to lease for? Because that's the number we have to come up with. We do a
Right, so
potential.
what would these junky buildings lease for? That's the question exactly.
No, what you're saying, and I realize this conversation, I don't know whether it was with you last year, Mr. Tannenbaum, or with just someone else representing the account. But this is why the board went the direction it went, because here's the difference. You keep talking about it as if the person who's gonna come in there and either lease or buy it are not gonna be in the galvanizing business. And what the board felt was the only reason this property's value would be if someone wanted a galvanizing business. Isn't that true? Isn't that the difference?
Well, no, that's true. I'm not saying that would somebody come in as if an owner and actually want to use these buildings, would they make their own new buildings for galvanizing? I just don't think they would lease it for much of a value at all, is all I'm saying. It'd be a very low lease value.
Well, we disagreed last year over this. I think they would come in and see it as a viable economic business that's returning a pretty good rate of return. It would be the only reason they would buy this property, is because it's an ongoing galvanizing. But that's just the difference. I understand your viewpoint. I'm not saying that it's a not perfectly rational viewpoint. I'm just saying ours is perfectly rational also, and that was the reason we went the way we did. And I think we're going to sustain it for that reason. I take it that comment was. Are you?
Well, I don't really have much else to say.
What? I'm sorry, Mr. Tannenbaum, either you were cut off or you gave up. Just tell me which, I don't care. Mr. Tannenbaum, you still there?
That's weird. I can hear you.
But I can't hear you. Now, oh, I did
Can you
just,
hear me now?
yes, I can now.
Oh, I was on speaker before, but I guess somehow it didn't translate. No, I was basically just saying we don't really have much else to say at this point, yeah.
Okay, well, I understand that. And we're gonna poll the board. It sounds like Charles and I probably tend to sustain. Ruth, do you have any other questions, comments, engagement with Mr. Tannenbaum before I call for a vote on this?
I'm in agreement to sustain.
Okay. I think we've more or less informally reached our decision, but we will make it formal in a minute. And we will then deal with the second parcel if there's any difference from what you are presenting as opposed to what was on the agenda last year. But let me go ahead and deal with this first one. I will move that we sustain the value on this ongoing business operating in this property at $204,200. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to sustain. We'll vote as the roll is called.
Dr. Ketchel,
Yes.
Mr. Vanderwilling,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines,
Yes.
So ordered by action of the board today to sustain this as the fair market value for an ongoing economic unit in this property. Now, the second one, I'll read the formal appeal in, and then you may address it, Mr. Tannenbaum. That one is located at 2310 South Union Avenue, west here in Tulsa. It was previously on for $96,700. They are proposing to leave it at that. He says he believes it should be corrected down to $60,000 for the following reason: the current economic and market conditions support a lower valuation for the subject property. All right, Mr. Tannenbaum. What? We can't hear you if you're talking. Mr. Tannenbaum, are you there? I don't know whether we've lost the telephone or we've lost him. How do we know? Can't you tell?
Maybe we should call him back.
All right, I'll ask the clerk to call him back, see what's going on if we can. Sorry. Looks like it's a similar building, is that correct?
It's cheaper. Yeah, the other one is more manufacturing. This one is more like a basic garage type property, really cheap quality.
Tannenbaum, digital tax. Please leave your name, number, and a short message. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you need to reach someone immediately, please dial 480-634-6169. Thank you.
Let's try it again.
Literally one of the most intimidating clients that tanks, ocean tankers.
I know.
Oh, you're okay, you're okay.
They were living in kettle, zinc.
This is Wayne Tannenbaum, digital tax. Please leave your name, number, and short message. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you need to reach someone,
No, it looks-
dial 480-634-6169. Thank you.
Yeah, I hate to imagine guys who have to work there. I hope they're paid well. Their health benefits are extraordinary.
Well, Ann's running out of room.
Hello, you've reached Courtney Simmons of Pivotal Tax Solutions. I'm either on the phone or away from my desk. Please leave your name, number, and a detailed message, and I'll return your.
You try it once more after that, we'll move on. I'm not willing to be held hostage.
He's somewhere questioning our heritage, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, but that's okay.
Maybe your mother wasn't even
Whatever
there.
works.
This is Wayne Tannenbaum with Pivotal Tax.
You
Please
wanna
leave
leave
your
a
name,
message?
number, and a short
I'm
message.
sorry.
I'll get back to
You
you as
wanna
soon
leave
as
a
I can.
message?
If you need to reach someone immediately, please dial 480-634-6169. Thank you.
Can I do it from here or should I go over there?
The message recorder is on.
Mr. Tannenbaum, this is Mr. Catchell, the chair of the Equalization Board. Seemingly, we cannot reach you by telephone right now. We'll give you a few more minutes to contact us, but after that, we must finish our agenda and move forward. Please call back if you wish the board to hear further argument or analysis on your property. Thank you.
The number is 918-596-5827.
You hung up, right? Thank you. Ah, I'm trying.
If it rings. It's this one. Phone.
Okay.
I would really love another piece of candy if that's.
Yes, that is.
I need it. It's been a long day for me already.
Tim, you need one?
You want one? Yeah. We should offer you one. Same verse, what's the same song, second verse?
I think the land value on this one is 93,400,
Yeah,
giving the improvement, what,
it's the same price per square foot as the previous one,
So you're
basically
proposing,
penny cheaper, but that's because of the rounding of the land.
Did you want to continue on with
is that,
first,
do we have another thing? Didn't we do the vote on the first one?
on the first one, but you're on the second one?
But we can't, that's what he has the opportunity to call back on, doesn't
Yes, but did you want to hear the
Oh, here.
assessor's part first
he?
and second?
No, I want to hear from him, otherwise we'll probably vote to sustain. If you want us to do something different, certainly we'll hear you out, but
Okay,
I think we discussed both of them.
yeah.
yeah.
Well, he showed us that
Maybe something like that. But you must know the client here he's dealing with. this year.
No, my client's no longer there.
Oh, he sold it.
That and refineries were not my two favorite place.
I bet. It's not to go and have to jump around.
Oh, there's something going on every minute, every word, every minute. It's just. Plus, I wear hard hat, steel toe shoes. I have a pair of steel toe wing tips.
Oh, that's pretty fancy.
It's looking good.
Okay, I think we've waited long enough. Tim, do you need to address the board today about this? I think we're getting ready to just sustain it, but if you wish to, I'm certainly not trying to stop.
No, unless you have something specific you want me to discuss, I kind of brought the differences to your attention, earlier when I was making the comparisons.
That's fine with me. I'll move on agenda item 1418. What I have already read into the record, that we sustain it as it has been presented to us at $96,700 in this appeal. Is there a second to my motion to sustain? Second. It's been moved and seconded to sustain. We'll vote as the roll is called.
Dr. Ketchel,
Yes.
Mr. Vanderwilling,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines,
Yes.
So ordered by action of the board today to sustain this property's valuation as a part of galvanizing. Maybe they are just hoping that by death or attrition, the board had changed. You never know. I believe we're ready to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second, it's been moved that we should adjourn and seconded, we'll vote to adjourn as the roll is called.
Dr. Ketchel,
Yes,
Mr. Vanderwilling,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines.
Yes.
thank you all.